Welcome to IPO This Week for the week of February 22nd. With limited activity on the traditional IPO front, on this episode, we're going to talk some SPACs. First, I'll give you the latest on the most speculated SPAC merger of the year, Churchill Capital's CCIV and Lucid Motors, including me sharing a report of the potential day for a possible announcement. And then I'll cap this week's episode off by giving you a detailed look and analysis of the recently announced merger between Gores' GHVI SPAC and Matterport. If you like investing in innovative companies, Matterport is definitely one you want to learn more about, so I hope you stay tuned. Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise channel and our weekly show where we talk about the latest and greatest companies going public. As always, I want to thank everyone in the community that comes back each and every week. And for those of you here for the first time, my name is Kevin. And if you're into staying on top of all the companies hitting the market, this channel might just be what you're looking for, so definitely consider subscribing and turning on the notification bell. That way, you won't miss any important information and videos that I have for you as soon as they come out. So this week, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we're going to talk about some SPACs today. And we're doing that because, as of this recording, I have no confirmed traditional IPOs coming out this week. In fact, we only had one scheduled for last week, which was a cannabis real estate company named AFC Gamma, and they ended up postponing their IPO for now. I couldn't find a particular reason for the delay, but it was a really new company that still is in the process of qualifying as a REIT, so I'm wondering if the delay was related to that. Anyway, I know a lot of you have been asking me to talk more about SPACs on the channel, so this might be that spectacular episode you've been waiting for. Was that bad? Did you roll your eyes? Alright, forgive me. Don't click away. I'll stop. So one of the SPACs I want to definitely talk about today is the recently announced deal between Gores Holdings VI and Matterport. And for two reasons. One being that it's an interesting combination that has seen the GHVI stock price more than double since the announcement of the agreement on February 8th that was actually signed on February 7th. And two, because this was a request from Sky in our community who made a very generous super chat donation in our last live stream, and I just wanted to send a shout out and a big thank you for stepping up to help support the channel. Thanks, Sky. But before we get into Gores and Matterport, let's take a look at the latest reports on Churchill's CCIV SPAC and Lucid Motors, which I said earlier has to be the most widely anticipated potential merger of the year. I almost hesitate to mention this as I'm recording it because it'll probably change before this gets released. That's just been the nature of this possible merger. But the latest over the weekend was reporting from Bloomberg that suggested that a deal for Lucid could be announced on Tuesday, an announcement that would finally end the speculation that has been going on for over a month. Now, the article did qualify this reporting by stating that the talks are still ongoing and could potentially fall apart. It just seems like we're getting at the point that this deal is going to get finalized. On last week's episode, we talked about some of the backgrounds of the negotiations, in particular, a reported Bloomberg terminal note suggesting that Churchill was still in talks with Venrock Associates and a group of Lucid investors as of the previous week. It just seems that all parties are trying to get the best deal they can get, which totally makes sense. Now my sense is that with the Lucid Air looking to come out soon, I think Lucid Motors investors have some leverage here and they're using it. And I do wonder if the pressure is now more on Churchill to bring this to a conclusion sooner than later. To that point, according to Bloomberg, CCIV has been in talks to raise between $1 and $1.5 billion in funding from institutional investors to support the transaction. The valuation and the amount of additional funding could still change based on investor demand, but the combined company could be valued at by as much as $15 billion as stated by sources in the article. So what do you guys think? Is this deal finally happening this week? Or do you think it's at risk for falling through? Let us know in the comments. Alright, let's move on to the headliner of this week's episode and talk about Matterport, the company targeted by Gores Holdings to go public. We'll go over its background and some financials, and then we'll talk about Gores and their performance and success rates in taking companies public by the SPAC route before I share some personal thoughts and assessment evaluation. Now just a quick reminder as we get into this analysis, keep in mind this video should not be viewed as me providing financial advice. You should always do your own research or consult with your own financial advisor when making any investment decision. So Matterport describes themselves as the leading spatial data company focusing on digitizing and indexing the built world. Have you been looking at real estate online recently and clicked on a 3D tour? Now not one of those cheap slideshow ones, but a real 3D tour? If so, you might not have noticed, but what you might have been seeing was an example of the company's offerings and capabilities. Matterport has been around since 2011 and holds claim to an all-in-one 3D data platform that enables anyone to turn a space into an accurate and immersive digital twin which can be used to design, build, operate, promote, and understand any space. And this can be done with a 3D camera, a LiDAR camera, or even simply an iPhone or iPad. This past year, like so many other tech companies, think Zoom as an example, Matterport's technology was found to be vital to an entire industry during the pandemic. This one being the massive real estate industry, where it allowed potential home buyers and renters to be able to tour property completely virtually when it couldn't be done in person. Matterport's proprietary AI technology automatically creates a dimensionally accurate, photorealistic, three-dimensional digital twin of any building that is loaded with spatial data. The AI understands what is important about a building or space, such as geometry, layout, structural analysis, and even includes furnishings and equipment. Matterport's spatial data provides building insights and analysis so that customers have a more efficient and scalable way to experience and manage buildings. Matterport claims to have more than 10 billion square feet of space in its spatial data library across millions of buildings in over 150 countries. The company monetizes its data primarily under a recurring revenue software as a services model and grew its subscriber base by more than 500% in 2020 to about 250,000 subscribers, up from about 40,000 in 2019. According to the Chief Financial Officer of Matterport, J.D. Fay, total revenue in 2020 was $85.9 million, up 87% year over year. As far as the market opportunity, the company and Saville's World Research estimate a total addressable market of $240 billion for Matterport to operate within, which is only really now beginning to be addressed. And for near-term revenue forecasts, Matterport estimates 2020 revenue of $123 million and 2022 revenue of $202 million. And then through 2025, revenue is expected to reach $747 million, which would be a compound annual growth rate of 59%. Now with SPAC merger deals, it's important to consider the performance of the SPAC sponsor itself. We've already mentioned Churchill earlier with CCIV, who has well-known Michael Klein behind them. And we've talked about the well-known Chamath Palihapitiya before on the channel, another big name in the space. And then to this SPAC we're talking about in the merger with Matterport, just so happens to have another one of the more well-known and established sponsors. This one, named Gores Holdings VI, is one of 7 vehicles sponsored by an affiliate of the Gores Group, a global investment firm founded in 1987 by Alec Gores. To this point, Alec Gores and affiliates of the Gores Group have completed 5 business combinations representing over $25 billion in transaction value. As you can see on your screen, the last row looks at 1-year investor return based on a buy-in price of $10, and all have positive returns. The company with the highest return was one of the first SPAC mergers I've talked about on the channel, and that was Gores' merging with LiDAR company Luminar. As far as this deal itself, from the filing and upon closing, the combined company will have an equity value of $2.9 billion and an enterprise value of $2.3 billion. Currently, and prior to a finalization of the merger, you can invest in the SPAC, which trades under the ticker GHVI. After the companies formally merge, you would then be able to invest in the company under the ticker MTTR. The expectation is that the transaction will close in Q2. As to some of my own personal thoughts on this Gores Matterport deal, I think there's a lot to like about it, and from what we've seen so far from GHVI stock performance since the announcement, the market has a positive response to it. As of this recording, it's trading in the mid-$20 range. While companies going public with SPACs don't have the scrutiny in their financials that a traditional IPO goes through, which always makes me hesitate some, I like that Matterport already has a product on the market, and I can conceive of them having done well in a real-world sense, whether it's in current revenue growth or market opportunity. First of all, real estate is considered to be one of the world's largest asset classes when you consider commercial, industrial, and residential properties together. And when you look at data showing that there are more than 4 billion buildings worldwide and that less than 1% are digitized, the opportunity for future growth makes sense. Now obviously, not every building will need to be digitized, but it can absolutely see the value in industrial and commercial buildings being digitized. Whether it's for mapping for customers, thinking about something like Google Maps integration, or looking at capital improvements where a company could save tons of money by not needing so many people to travel and be on site for assessment. And then for residential growth, that business could continue to build over time as properties are put up for sale. Now a lot of people might think that the big boost for Matterport was because of the pandemic, but might believe that the demand for it will go away as the economies continue to open up. But I don't think so. While I think the pandemic moved the adoption of the technology faster, particularly for the real estate industry, I think it's just the next logical step in promoting houses. You know, I still remember when people looked for houses in the newspaper or by picking up a real estate book at the grocery stores. Yeah, feel free to comment how old I am. And those resources had very little details in them, so you really had to go see the property in person if you really wanted to get an idea what it was like. And then with the internet, obviously, you started to have online listings that gave you more pictures and information to determine if a property was something you were really interested enough to go see in person, so you weren't wasting your time looking at properties that you ultimately wouldn't buy. Now with Matterport technology being used in online 3D tours, which I've personally seen in online real estate ads, it just goes a step further into letting you determine if a property is one you're really interested in. Having tried these 3D tours myself, I think they're awesome. As the world continues to use technology to become more efficient and convenient, just from the real estate perspective alone, the value in the product seems clear to me. I mean, real estate agents won't need to waste time setting up and going to appointments for buyers that, if those buyers had a digital view, may have ruled that property out without ever having seen it, saving everybody the headache. And the same for potential renters. And it could also give an edge as an Airbnb host where you could provide a view that is more likely to meet potential guests' expectations, thereby getting better reviews. And for buyers and renters, again, just think about it. You have the opportunity to get a much better idea of a property before you decide to head out and potentially waste an afternoon traveling back and forth to look at something that, had you had a better look at it online, you might have decided wasn't worth your time. So from a business model, personally seeing and using the product, and with its growth prospects, I really think that the company could be a good one to own. Now as to valuation, obviously now that's something you have to consider, at least I do, particularly as the GHVI stock price has already jumped significantly on the announcement. At first glance, by looking at the terms of the deal, you'll see a price to sales measure of 2020 revenue of around 33. However, using the current stock price in the mid-20s and looking again at a price to sales measure on 2020 revenue, you're looking at a much pricier current PS ratio of 84. And then looking at future revenue, the price to sales would be around a 59 multiple for 2021 and around 35 for 2020. So you just need to figure out the peer groups, look at growth rates, and determine if it's at a price point you're interested at. Now that's easier said than done because it can be difficult when you're dealing with an innovative company like Matterport with a unique product undergoing rapid growth, as you can't always find an established public company to compare it for a true apples to apples comparison. Now everyone that's been with me for a while knows I'm not going to tell you if you should buy or pass or what a price target is because I don't try to predict the future since I wasn't born with that supernatural ability. But my hope is that if you've taken in the information I've shared with you and consider some of my opinions I have on them, and most importantly, you do a little more research and reasoning on your own, hopefully you'll come up with the best decision for yourself. So having said that, what are your initial thoughts on GHVI and Matterport? Is this an investment you're made or considering? Let us know. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you want to see more videos like this, please like it, comment on it, and share with your friends and on any of your social media sites. And if you're new to the channel or just an occasional visitor, we'd love to have you join the community. It's totally free. You just got to press that little red subscribe button. And with that, I wish you a good week of trading. Thank you for watching. And until next time, have a great day.